ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 10, Battle between the demigods and Vritasura. I've been given 4 verses. 3 verses doesn't have a purport, and what is on the board is verse number 16. I'll read 13, 14 and 15. Just you can listen. Athindro vajramudyamya nirmitam vishmakarmana mune shakti-bhirutsikto bhagavat-tejasanvitaha vrito devaganai sarvai gajendro paryashobhata stuyamano muniganais trailokyam harshayanniva. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thereafter, King Indra very firmly took up the thunderbolt manufactured by Vishwakarma from the bones of Dadichi. Charged with the exalted power of Dadichi Muni and enlightened by the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Indra rode on the back of his carrier Airavata, surrounded by all the demigods, while all the great sages offered him praise. Thus he shone very beautifully, pleasing the 3 worlds as he rode off to kill Vritasura. Text number 15. Vritham abhyadravat shatrum asuranikayutapai paryastam ojasa rajan kruddho rudrayivantakam. My dear King Parikshit, as Rudra, being very angry at Antaka, Yamaraja, had formerly run toward Antaka to kill him, Indra angrily and with great force attacked Vritasura, who was surrounded by the leaders of the demoniac armies. Text number 16, which is on the board. Tatha suranam asurai Tatha suranam asurai Rana paramadharunaha Rana paramadharunaha Tretha mukhe narmadayam Tretha mukhe narmadayam Abhavat prathame yughe Abhavat prathame yuge Tatha suranam asurai Rana paramadharunaha Tretha mukhe narmadayam Abhavat prathame yuge. 2 Vaishnavas and 2 Vaishnavis. Tatha suranam asurai Rana paramadharunaha Tretha mukhe narmadayam Abhavat prathame yuge Tatha suranam asurai Rana paramadharunaha Tretha mukhe narmadayam Abhavat prathame yuge. Tatha suranam asurai Ranah Paramadarunah Trethamukhe Narmadayam Abhavat Prathame Yuge Tathasuranam Asurai Ranah Paramadarunah Trethamukhe Narmadayam Abhavat Prathame Yuge Tathasuranam Asurai Ranah Paramadarunah Trethamukhe Narmadayam Abhavat Prathame Yuge. Transliteration, please repeat. Tatha, thereafter, Suranam, of the demigods, Asurai, with the demons, Rana, a great battle, Paramadaruna, very fearful, Treta Mukhe, in the beginning of Treta Yuga, Narmadayam, and the bank of the river Narmada, Abhavat, took place, Prathame, in the first, Yuge, millennium. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Thereafter, please repeat. Thereafter, at the end of Satya Yuga and the beginning of Treta Yuga, a fierce battle took place between the demigods and the demons on the bank of the Narmada. Purport. Herein, the Narmada does not mean the Narmada river in India. The 5 sacred rivers in India, Ganga, Yamuna, Narmada, Kaveri, and Krishna, are all celestial. Like the Ganges river, the Narmada river also flows in the higher planetary systems. The battle between the demigods and the demons took place in the higher planets. The words Prathame Yuge mean in the beginning of the first millennium, that is to say, in the beginning of Vaivasvata Manvantara. In one day of Brahma, there are 14 Manus who each live for 71 millenniums. The 4 Yugas, Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali, constitute 1 millennium. Yet presently, in the Manvantara of Vaivasvata Manu, who is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam Vivasvan Vanave Praha Manurikshvakve Brave. We are now in the 28th millennium of Vaivasvata Manu, but this fight took place in the beginning of Vaivasvata Manu's first millennium. One can historically calculate how long ago the battle took place. Since each millennium consists of 4,300,000 years, and we are now in the 28th millennium, some 120,400,000 years have passed since the battle took place on the bank of the river Narmada. Om Ajnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. The 13-14 verse, which doesn't have a purport, which says that we are reading for all these days the battle between the demigods and Vritasura. We are now in 13 and 14 verse. Now, the demigods, on the instructions of the Lord, went to Dadichi Muni and asked for his backbone to make the Vajrayudha. With this Vajrayudha, they will be able to defeat Vritasura. So now Indra is so happy that he got this thunderbolt and with which he will be able to kill Vritasura. So the first verse translation says that with all the blessings of all the people, the great sages, Indra is going and he's shown very beautifully, pleasing the three worlds, and he's rode on his Airavata to kill Vritasura. And the next translation says how he was going to fight Vritasura. Sukadeva Goswami is speaking about this incident of where Lord Shiva went behind Yamaraj. This is the pastime from Markandeya Rishi. Markandeya Rishi's parents were asking Lord Shiva, praying to Lord Shiva for a son. And Lord Shiva gave them a boon that a foolish son who will live for 100 years and a very intelligent, a devotee child will live for 16 years. So that the parents got Markandeya Rishi as Lord Shiva's boon, as a result of Lord Shiva's boon. So when Markandeya Rishi turned 16, so he went and embraced Lord Shiva, because by his boon Markandeya Rishi was born. So he went and embraced, hugged Lord Shiva's deity. So Yamaraj is also called Antaka, threw a rope on Markandeya Rishi. Since Markandeya Rishi was embracing the deity of Lord Shiva, the linga of the Shiva linga, the rope fell on Lord Shiva also. So when he threw the rope, Lord Shiva came out with very angrily and he just chased Antaka, that is Yamaraj. So the same incident Sukadeva Goswami is quoting here, that how Rudra, being very angry at Antaka and ran behind him, similarly Indra with very force and anger, with all his vigor, wanted to kill Vritasura with his new weapon, with his Vajrayudha, which has got all the blessings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now when we read text 16, which is on the board, Srila Prabhupada speaks about where the fierce battle took place, which is on the river bank of Narmada, which is also flowing in the higher planetary systems. If we see in this purport of Srila Prabhupada gives very accurate information of the geographical locations of the different planets and the time of different millenniums very accurately. Srila Prabhupada proves, we can understand that he wants to prove that this Bhagavatam is the highest perfection of life, and the highest perfection is achieved by the devotional service unto the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. Otherwise, what is there to take so much of pain to give accurate information about all these things? We don't require it. But the idea of Srimad Bhagavatam is to prove that that is the highest perfection of human life. But now present day, the modern day civilization, the so-called scientists and modern educationists, they don't agree to Srimad Bhagavatam, and according to them, they consider it as a mythological story or a moral story. There's nothing called as punishment or a hell. We can live whichever way we like. It's not compulsory that we have to stick to these literatures. There is nothing called as Shastras. But how accurately Srila Prabhupada gives this information of these geographical location of these planets and the time of these planets, time limit, so many things. Otherwise, why he had to take so much pain to write all these things? Our foolish scientists, they say that there is nothing beyond this life. There is nothing beyond this present material body. This is because of the so-called modern education, which is like a poison. Srila Prabhupada says in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that there should be a systematic propaganda of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, which act like a sugar candy for the material world, which is in a jaundice condition. And he compares that the material education is like catering, it is like a poison. The more and more we give this material education, it is like giving poison little by little, and slowly one day we are fully affected with poison. To cease that from the world being suffered from the poisonic condition, Srila Prabhupada says that the emergency is that should be a systematic propaganda for Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo yasmin pratishlokam abadhavatyapi naman yanantasya yashonkitan yat shrinvanti gayanti grinanti sadavaha. Srila Prabhupada, Narada Muni is instructing to Vyasadeva that literature which describes about the name, form, pastimes of the Lord, which creates a revolution in the impious hearts of the living beings. So the need of the hour is to propagate the systematic message of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. And that is appreciated by the Paramahamsas. And Srila Prabhupada, in the same purport, if we see, he quotes, in fact, Srila Prabhupada says, that shloka also says, even though it is inadequately composed by the people, which may have inadequate in language or scholarly skills may not be there, but still it brings a revolution in the hearts of impious people, and that is more important. Srila Prabhupada says in that particular purport that when there is a fire in the house, the inmates of the house, even though they don't know the language, they go and ask for the neighbors for help to save them from that condition. So that is this systematic propaganda of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita is a need of the hour, is an emergency situation that we have to spread this message. So that is the need of the hour. That is what Srila Prabhupada explains through that fire example. And due to this so-called material education and due to this poisonic mentality from time immemorial, our devotees, it's very sad to say that we devotees also fall prey to that material education. We feel that without material education, we can't survive in the material world. Our Krishna conscious education alone is not sufficient to survive in this material world. I want to just take my own example in my personal life. I didn't grow up in a cosmopolitan or metropolitan city. I grew up in a small town, very, very small town, and not a very high education. And I always have though I just went to college, but not very high degree or professional. But on the other hand, my sisters, both my sisters, one is a dentist who is now preaching very nicely. Her husband is also a dentist. The other sister is a chartered accountant. Before coming to Krishna consciousness, I had this feeling that I didn't go for higher studies. I didn't work. I'm not considered as a modern woman in the society. But after coming to Krishna consciousness, I realized this one point that Krishna says in 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which is considered to be the most confidential knowledge, that Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyak Shavagamam Dharmyam Susukam Martum Avyagam. This is devotional service is joyfully performed, and this is the king of education. So having got this king of education, I was totally convinced that I never missed anything in my life. Though I didn't get my material education, I didn't work, but that point when I got that shloka, I never turned back or never felt bad that I was in that situation. But I'm so happy that Krishna has given me, by the blessings of Srila Prabhupada, now I got the qualification to sit in a Vyasasana to give Bhagavatam class. Definitely by my own ability, I would have never been able to done this. This is simply by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by the mercy of Guru Parampara and all the Vaishnavas. And many times we say that due to material education, because of material education only we can get money. It is absolutely not. It is due to one's own karma. We get wealth, we get beauty, we get so many facilities, opulence, everything. Personally, I have seen one devotee who is just coming up very nicely, who was working in Middle East and who joined in a company as a laborer and who has not even crossed 10th. He worked in a very honest means. In 15 years, he started a very small company, and within the same time frame, there were people who are with a very high qualification, with distinction and university degree, worked in the Middle East in the same time frame. But whatever time he worked in honest means and got lots of money compared to those people who also worked with the same high degree in 15 years, they didn't got so much of money as this Prabhu got, and he's definitely using nicely in the service of Krishna consciousness activities and building small temples and so many things he is doing. So that shows this karma. It is ultimately that karma. He has not even crossed 10th. And what to speak of people like this is the misconception we have. Then if we consider that material education is the highest, Krishna consciousness is not. So then we are refuting Sri Krishna's words. Lord Krishna says, since it is Purushottama Yoga, in the Purushottama Yoga chapter, Lord says, Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto matha smritignanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarvair ahameva vedyo vedanta kritveda viddeva chaham. I am seated in everyone's heart. From me come knowledge, remembrance and forgetfulness. If the Lord is the one who is giving the knowledge, so how can we consider that no, it is only material education? Even to read material education, one has to have the mercy of the Lord, and through His mercy only one can get knowledge. When my son was studying in the materialistic school, it was a general science examination, and in that there was a question, essay question, which is 20 marks, which carries 20 marks, and the question is, write about a famous cricketer, how his bowling, spinning and so many things, how he came to cricket and what all his achievements. And the way he is brought up in our home, there was no TV connection and he's not exposed, though he watched cartoon and things like that, but there was no cricket at all at home. So he didn't know all this information. So he came, he just wrote something, he came with, for the 20 mark question, he came with half mark answer. I mean, he got half mark. So when I saw the paper, I was really irritated. So is this player is a Mahajan whom my son have to learn about him? Is this knowledge is going to help him to go back home, back to Godhead? Definitely not. I don't have to put my son in that kind of education where he get all this knowledge. But what happens, material education is both. Like one time we are thinking that simultaneously we can give both Krishna consciousness and mundane education. But one hand we are giving a nectar, on the other hand we are giving a poison. But many a times if we see, the child spend most of the time in the materialistic association than the devotee association. And I am not telling that, I am not against modern education, but that is the seriousness of modern education. Ishopanishad, the 9th mantra also says, Andam tamaha pravishanti. It says that those who are dealing with the culture of nescience is dangerous. The translation also says, worse than that is the culture of so-called knowledge. Vidya and avidya. Avidya is dangerous. Vidya is even more dangerous when it is misguided. Srila Prabhupada in fact writes in the first para of that shloka that this shloka is particularly applicable in the present day situation where the modern education have advanced tremendously, but the impact is that people have very less time for a very important aspect of life, which is spiritual life. Srila Prabhupada makes this statement, and also it states that this misguided education is like the decorations on the dead body. Srila Prabhupada says in this purport. So the present need is that we need preachers. There are hundreds and thousands of doctors, engineers, IT specialists, so many are there. But as Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, the scarcity is Krishna consciousness. And what is the scarcity? The scarcity is scarcity of devotees. Whichever temple we ask, we don't have sufficient manpower. So that's why we are doing this. We don't have enough devotees to carry on this. That is the result we are seeing with our own eyes, we are hearing. So what is the scarcity? The scarcity is devotees. I am not telling that we should not make devotees or engineers or IT specialists. But the higher principle is we make devotees. We want devotees because that is the scarcity. Now, recently when I went to Calcutta for my renewal of my son's passport, I was just thinking so many hundreds were standing in a queue for a passport. I was just thinking if so many are there in this small passport office, how many people are there in the outside world who are just rotting without Krishna consciousness. So that present need which is in our hands, that we listen to Srila Prabhupada's words, the need of the hour is to propagate Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. For that we need devotees. And sometimes we devotees say that No, actually, why we are encouraging modern education is so that we can preach to corporate world. So that's why we want prestigious education in prestigious university, so many things. But Srila Prabhupada says that unless one has the power of attorney to preach, one cannot preach to anyone and one cannot make a devotee. Unless one gets the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one cannot preach. So then if Srila Prabhupada's statement is this, so then where is the question of material education, which we have a misconception that only with this material education we can preach to corporate world. No, it is by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu we can do wonderful things. Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Katanchana smrite resmin dushkaram shukaram bhaved vismrite viparitam sya Shri Chaitanya mamitam. So just by remembering Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one can do so many things. And just to conclude in today's class, I just want to read something what Srila Prabhupada says in first canto, first chapter, 22nd verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. And the main principle today is we are not totally against material education. If anything which is useful in the service of the Lord, yes, we definitely have to adopt it. But as devotees, we should not consider that just without material education, we cannot survive in the material world. And only with Krishna consciousness, we cannot survive in the material world. Along with Krishna consciousness, we need material education. That is a misconception we have, but it is not. Because the Lord says, Dadami buddhi yogam tam. So those who are worshipping the Lord gives the intelligence from within by the Paramatma and from the outside through the spiritual master, through previous acharyas. If material education is a must, then in Nectar of Instruction, Srila Rupa Goswami, so since we are following Rupa Goswami, we are also called as Rupanugas. In the third verse of Nectar of Instruction, Srila Prabhupada's, it is Utsaha Nishchaya Dhairya Tat Karma Pravartana. So that shloka, Srila Prabhupada writes the translation. There are 6 principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional service. They are being enthusiastic, endeavoring with patient confidence, following the previous acharyas, abandoning the association of non-devotees, following the regulative principles properly. These 6 principles undoubtedly achieve the success of pure devotional service. So this is the statement Srila Prabhupada makes. These 6 principles undoubtedly achieve the success of pure devotional service. If Rupa Goswami and Srila Prabhupada are saying this, then where is the question of material education? We have to endeavor for these things. The first 3 principles, this is Utsaha, Nishchayat and Dhairyat, we are using it in a different way. How? We are very enthusiastic to carry forward our material education. We are with confidence, we are very confident that we will be admitted in some very big university, and we are patiently waiting in queues to get admission in those universities. And for pure devotional service, we have never endeavored so much. And in present situation, if we see, right from, I'm talking about Indian education perspective, right from grade 8, the children are studying along with their school subject, they have to study IIT. They have to study for IIT entrance. So unless they study that IIT entrance from 8th grade, they will not be able to write their exam after their 12th. So the child is endeavoring so much right from the age of 8th just to get money and to have a better facility or to have a sense gratification. So we don't have to endeavor so much. Rishabdev says, Nayam deho deha bhajam loke kashtan kaman arhate vidbhujam ye tapo divyam putrakayena sattam shuddhet yasmad brahma saukyam tu anantam. Rishabdev is instructing his 100 sons that those who are awarded with the materialistic body, especially those who have been awarded with the human form of life, should not work hard day and night to get sense gratification. Tapo divyam putrakayena sattvam, that they can use in performing austerity and penance, so that they can use in devotional service. And the result they get by devotional service is eternal. That is the instruction Rishabdev gives his 100 sons. But now due to this situation, whatever instructions we give to our children are different. Though there is, I can say that it's a garnishing, or like we say that in food items, when we say it's a garnishing of something like coriander leaves, we put this, we say in modern education, there is a slight touch of Krishna consciousness is there. But the point is, Maya is so strong. Our children are not in Uttama Adhikari level or Madhyama Adhikari level, so that they are not disturbed by the outside society. They get disturbed. So that is now in our hands that we give them a chance, that first we follow the instructions of Srila Prabhupada as Prabhupada anugas, as we follow the words of Srila Prabhupada. If not we, who else will follow the Srila Prabhupada's words? And I'm sorry, just missed. I'd like to conclude this purport which Srila Prabhupada says. Learned men, therefore, must be cautious of this age, and if they at all want to cross over the dangerous ocean of Kali, they must follow the footsteps of the sages of Naimisharanya and accept Sri Suta Goswami or his bona fide representative as the captain of the ship. The ship is a message of Lord Shri Krishna in the shape of Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam. And in Bhagavad Gita also, Sanjaya says at the end, Yatra Yogeshwaro Krishno, Yatra Partho Dhanurdharo, Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir Dhruvanitir Matir Mama. Wherever the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is, and the famous archer Arjuna is, there will be certainly extraordinary power, morality, opulence, OVM, what else? Victory. And with this, I conclude this class. Any comments, question or corrections? Please.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. You gave such a wonderful class on modern education system and comparison to the Vedic system. But still, we see nowadays that even the devotees, they are not giving their children so much Vedic education, or not interested in giving them Vedic education. And also, the children are being spoiled, So for them, and also because it is happening due to because parents are not following properly. Those parents are not following, they are not able to give their children right concept of Krishna consciousness. So thank you for that. Hare Krishna.
Before reading Srila Prabhupada books, or before coming to Krishna consciousness, definitely I was not convinced of this kind of education. It's by the association, and definitely Srila Prabhupada's purport have helped me a lot. And there is a very, very nice verse in the Shvetasvatara Upanishad which Srila Prabhupada often quotes. Those who have implicit faith in the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master, all the imports of Vedic knowledge are revealed. Yasya deve parabhaktir etadeve tatha guru tasyaitahi katite arte prakashante mahatmanaha. So if we follow the words of the spiritual master with full faith and conviction, definitely the success is waiting. And it is the success of Srila Prabhupada. It is the success of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it is in our hands that we take up the words of Srila Prabhupada. If, as I said in the class earlier, if we don't follow the instructions of Srila Prabhupada, then the outside world is not going to follow. It is not meant for them. Of course, it is meant for them when we preach and they come to Krishna consciousness. But it is primarily, we have to propagate this. We have to educate ourselves. And since it is we are going to celebrate the 50th anniversary of ISKCON, so we take these words of the spiritual master seriously. And personally, I also have an experience that if we don't follow the instructions of the spiritual master, it's not going to work out. Personally, I have an experience that spiritual master told us something to do and we did something, and I didn't get any result for probably 6-7 years. So when I followed the instructions of the spiritual master, then I mean, like, before getting into it, I was just thinking, how will I be able to do it? But the moment, yes, we can, because we have read many times Srila Prabhupada says that the empowerment comes along with the instructions of the spiritual master. If you follow the spiritual master, definitely the empowerment comes. And as I said personally, definitely I don't have a qualification. I'm not qualified to give a Bhagavatam class. And by the mercy of devotees, I'm teaching for a Western audience in Mayapur Institute, Bhakti Shastri. All these things, it's definitely by the mercy of the spiritual master, by the mercy of previous acharyas. And if we take up seriously the words of the spiritual master, that is a success. Otherwise, there is no point in, every day we sing in the Guru Ashtakam, Shakshat Haritvena Shamashta Shastrai. So the spiritual master is non-different from the Supreme Lord. So we have to follow those instructions. And people may say, I don't have the faith and conviction. The faith and conviction comes by association, and also association means like many devotees, Sangha of many devotees. And also the main thing is reading Srila Prabhupada books. Everything is there in Srila Prabhupada books. Right from, you name it, you get it, like we say, no? So everything is there in Srila Prabhupada's books. We don't have to search outside. So everything is there in Srila Prabhupada books. So just we need to follow it. We may find it difficult in the beginning because we are conditioned like that, but definitely by the blessings of the Vaishnavas, we will be able to follow. And as I said, the empowerment comes along with the instructions of the spiritual master. Thank you. Mataji has a question.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you very much for class. It was very, very edifying. I just wanted to mention something that was brought to my mind yesterday, is that the importance of reading Srila Prabhupada's books is absolute. Prabhupada said, if you want to know me, you read my books. But I just wanted to also perhaps encourage the devotees to read about Prabhupada's life, Prabhupada Lilamrita. And actually yesterday I discovered it on SoundCloud. Satsvarup Maharaj was, I think it was from Lilamrita, it sounded like Lilamrita. And Satsvarup Maharaj, who's the author of Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, he was reciting, narrating the early stages of Prabhupada's life. And it was so, I mean, I've read Lilamrita, but actually listening to it was very wonderful. And I think if devotees, especially the newer devotees, understand what Srila Prabhupada endured, and it's not just that Prabhupada went on the Jaladuta and he went to America to preach to, you know, us fallen Westerners. Prabhupada endured so much struggle and suffering. He tried to institute the League of Devotees in Jhansi, his residence where he tried to set up that league. There were some women who wanted to set up a women's society there, and the woman had, this is what I was hearing yesterday, and the woman had the ear of the wife of the governor, so Srila Prabhupada was forced to leave those premises. And Prabhupada was in Delhi at that stage. I think he was at 60 years old. And he was trying to distribute his Back to Godhead magazine, which he was the entire author of, collector for, and he was in 112-degree heat in Delhi. Now, I don't know what that is in our current, maybe 45, 46, I don't know if any mathematicians here could figure it out, but extremely high heat. And Prabhupada was actually passing out because the heat was so bad. And one favourable person actually saw Prabhupada reeling in that heat, and he took him to the doctor. And the doctor said, you shouldn't do this. And Prabhupada said, no, I have to continue. So the sacrifice that Prabhupada made from many years before he went to the West. And then, of course, we know, we're more familiar with that, with what Prabhupada, how difficult it was for Prabhupada to set up Krishna consciousness. He had to live, you know, he had to stay with someone who kept dog food in the refrigerator, where Prabhupada kept his vegetables. And Prabhupada, one early friend of his, would take Prabhupada to the park. And when Prabhupada was recounting to his later disciples how difficult it was at that early days, he said, oh, it was hell. And the devotees were thinking, oh yes, it must have been difficult because, you know, Prabhupada didn't have the association of right-minded people. And Prabhupada said, no, it was hell. I had to sit in the front seat with a dog. Now, of course, many devotees have dogs as pets, but Prabhupada would not have approved, I don't think. But anyway, my point is, I would like to request the devotees, if they haven't read Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, please, I beseech you, please read those books. It's very, very wonderful, and it will inspire you to think, yes, well, Prabhupada sacrificed so much, let me at least read his books with some devotion. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Even I have a point to say regarding Lilamrita. When I very new devotee, just came to Krishna consciousness, maybe 3-4 months, there was a Janmashtami festival. And yes, since I have come from an Indian background, I was thinking, yeah, I know Krishna. So I just told my husband that I will fast for Janmashtami. But the next day after Janmashtami is Sri Prabhupada appearance day. But I asked him, I was the same person who dared enough to say that, who is this Sri Prabhupada? Why I have to fast for him? And that is the sentence, that is the question I asked him. And after the Janmashtami festival, my Shiksha Guru gave us the Lilamrita as a gift. Since we sponsored something for Janmashtami, I got this Lilamrita as a gift. And when I read that Lilamrita, I couldn't, the small one, not the big one by Satswarup Maharaj, I couldn't keep that book down. Tears were continuously flowing from my eyes. Then this is the kind of a person who has sacrificed so much, and how dare I speak that why I had to fast for him? And that is the point I accepted Sri Prabhupada in my life. So, thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki